Hey everyone, this is Bulba Trainer. I want to thank everyone who enjoyed my latest video. It's my highest ranking video in terms of views, which I guess means either people enjoyed the shorter length or the subject. I still have a lot of video ideas that will absolutely break both of these norms, but since we're still in the Crown Tundra season, if that's a thing, I wanted to try my hand at another analysis video. This time, instead of just looking at one Pokemon, we'll be looking at 6, because these 6 are linked and it's not fair to cover one over the other. The Regis. Though technically they're called the Legendary Titans, which will be fun to poke around. Also technically, Regigigas isn't counted as one of the Titans since it's the Master. It's kind of weird, but we're going to count it for this video. So if you've watched my videos before, you know that I often try to look at deeper political or religious meanings certain parts of the Pokemon universe may have, and use that to influence a theory. However, I want to stress that this is just the jumbled mess my brain comes up with. If you believe something different about this or any other theory, I'd be happy to see it in the comments below, as long as you're polite about it. Debate is more fun than canon. Now, the part a lot of people know about the Regis, which is what I'm calling them, technicalities be damned, is that they are based on the golem of Jewish folklore. If you don't know, golems are supernatural creatures made of mud or clay that are generally brought to life by a specific ritual, often involving something written on the forehead or placed in their mouths. They are instructed to perform a specific task, which they do sometimes extremely literally, which can cause problems. Erasing or removing the writing deactivates them or kills them. There's a lot of variation in the lore depending on the place or time. Sometimes the golem, for various reasons, ends up on a rampage and becomes a threat. Sometimes it does its task perfectly and is sealed away as a warning to others. It's a really rich lore. Generally speaking, the person who crafts a golem is a mystic of some sort or closely connected to God. The average person can't just scoop up some mud and activate it, which actually follows with the lore in the Pokemon world about the creation of the Regis. Regigigas is the special one who created the other 5. There is no concrete reason why Regigigas would create the other Regis, but I suspect they were meant to be servants or assistants, as is the case in many Golem legends, which would provide another connection to the Jewish lore. Finally, the fact that each of the Regis has 7 dots could be a threefold connection. First, in Judaism, there are 7 names for God that are considered the most sacred, giving the number importance. Second, in many golem legends, the writing that activates the golem is on the forehead, giving the location importance. And finally, the golem legend always has that undercurrent of the creation of Adam, who was likewise made of dust in the image of God and then given life. Maybe Regigigas wanted to impart the dots on its own forehead into the design of its creations, mimicking this. Regigigas is one of those Pokemons that I would say would probably be a deity in the Pokemon world. It was worshipped at one point and it has the ability to gift life, which I have previously mentioned is one of the factors that deity Pokemon have unique to them. Also, it may have some omniscience, since the Hoenn Titans are represented by the colored gems on its torso, but Regieleki and Regidrago aren't represented, since Regigigas knew that they would be whisked away to another region. That or Game Freak didn't predict the introduction of 2 new Regis more than a decade later. It's one of those two. Finally, it dragged the continents into place, which makes it powerful, but is also such an awesome piece of lore. Seriously, there are no deities of plate tectonics in our religions because the understanding of plate tectonics developed long after the deities were already established. It could be something added to the mythology of, say, Poseidon, but it's not an established part of his mythology. It's a perfect representation of that balance between the scientific and the mystical that Pokemon frequently maintains. Anyway, the thing that, even before these new Regis came along, made me want to poke Amon at this more was the fact that I've never seen a golem described as being created out of anything other than mud or clay. One-time dust, but that's still of the earth. The legend is not accidentally supposed to recall the creation of Adam, and in the religions with that mythology, that is always done with dust. I've never found a golem legend that discusses creation from ice or metal, and definitely not dragon energy or electricity. The Earth theme is pretty crucial, and even though I didn't find an exact parallel somewhere else, This discrepancy did make me consider other divine beings who have created special creatures. For example, Hephaestus, the god of forges and metalworking and fire, was said to have made robots in the form of statues that did his bidding. Now, as I said, it's not a direct parallel, but if anyone could make a living servant out of electric energy or ice or whatever medium was placed before him, I'd imagine it'd be Hephaestus. It also got me thinking about Greek mythology and the beings found there. It's not a hard leap to make, considering that, as I mentioned, the technical name for these Pokémon is the legendary Titans. Do you know who else has a mythology about beings known as Titans? Now, real quick so I can keep the video short, Greek mythology is a wide forest of ideas, and sometimes people get told about certain paths, but that doesn't mean it's the only one. Sometimes the Titans were all defeated and replaced, sometimes only Kronos is overthrown and the others helped Zeus or were neutral, sometimes they're still worshipped, and sometimes they're reviled as the bringers of chaos in contrast to the peace and stability of the gods. Like, yes, the world can be a crappy place, but it could always be worse. Trust me, it can always be worse. Sometimes the Titans were confused with the Giants, which are technically a different class of being. It's a lot, and I can't unpack it all, but I can find the similarities. The confusion might even explain why the references between these Pokémon seem to be mixed up, and I hope I don't confuse you either. So there are two battles in Greek mythology, the Titanomachy and the Gigantomachy, where the Titans and the Giants respectively try to overthrow the Olympians. They get mixed up a lot, but the point is that there are a class of being that challenges the Olympians and their order. The Giants are said to have been born in a way that might get me censored by YouTube, but a Titan was responsible. Regis, who, by the way, the Gigas part of the name is the Greek word for giant, makes you think. Anyway, Regis, despite its name, would be the Titan in this scenario, creating the Giants, which are the other 5 Regis. The Titans aren't called gods, but possess similar power and sometimes divinity, in this case meaning they are considered worthy of having a cultus in Greek and Roman polytheism. The Giants, on the other hand, are almost never mentioned as having a cult, and are usually villains. In both wars, the Titanomachy and Gigantomachy, the gods are stated to have bound or imprisoned the losing side, usually under mountains, lest they escape and wreak havoc on our world again. Does that sound familiar? It really should. Likewise, Regis is said to have been bound and the other Regis along with it. There are a lot of references to the fear humans have of these Pokémon being awoken again, like human sacrifice, cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria, you know? My theory, then, is that in addition to the Golem, the Regis are also based on this little nugget of Greek mythology. Some of the Titans, either through their punishment or very nature, were crucial to the world, like Atlas, who holds up the sky, keeping it from crushing us, or Oceanus, who can be said to be the personification of the very ocean itself. Regis had a role to play in the early development of the Pokémon world, dragging the continents into place. Perhaps innocently, perhaps maliciously, it then went on to create the other Regis, servants who would be able to do its bidding. Showing its power, it fashioned one each of steel, rock, ice, dragon energy, and electricity, which, by the way, can also be seen to represent various ages of humankind. The Greeks also split up their imagined human history into epochs, and sometimes the Golden, Silver, and Bronze Ages are signified by the class of being in charge at the time, the primordial forces, the Titans, and the Olympians respectively. By the way, we're probably in Hesiod's Iron Age. Anyway, for one reason or another, Regis would be seen as a threat to the other deities such as Arceus, Palkia, and Dialga, and has to be sealed away, entrusting humans with the location of the Regis and the puzzles that guard them. Galar got a little lax with theirs though. I mean, there was Braille and specific moves to awaken the first 3 and then just step on some dots. Whatever. The parallels are there and were prominent enough for me to make this video. So that's the theory, that the Golem lore still stands, but that the Regis were also inspired by the Greek giants and titans and the battle that gave the god supremacy. Regis represents the titans, helpful for a time, but then who creates the giants? Regice, Regidrago, Regirock, Registeel, and Regieleki. perhaps to challenge the ruling order. Punishment arrives in the form of being sealed away to keep the world safe, and they aren't ever really released on their own. You, the player character, catches them, which tames them, which keeps the world at peace. I hope you all liked this. I might start digging into more lore from other Pokemon depending on how this one goes. If that sounds exciting, don't forget to comment and let me know. Subscribe so you don't miss out on those future videos, and maybe check out some of my longer works. Anyways, thank you. I will see you all next time, and stay safe.